I don't know why I'm starting a vlog like this. I need a shave desperately. I need a haircut desperately. If only I cared more about how I looked. So welcome to a reading vlog. So it is World Book Week and I was trying to decide what I wanted to read this week, and for the longest time I've really wanted to reread The Edge Chronicles by Paul Stewart and Chris Riddell. Now I thought this would be the perfect week to do it because World Book Week or World Book Day is coming up on Thursday, and that's like a thing that we celebrate in the UK. It's like mainly for, you know, children and getting books into children's hands, but it's also about celebrating the love of reading and stories and books and all of that. So, you know, what better way to spend this week than rereading some childhood favourites. Another reason why I wanted to do a vlog is because it's going to be easier for me to film, because my MacBook, my trusty MacBook that I've only had for like a year and a half, has decided to break down. It has been sent off to Apple for repairs, so thank you everybody who helped me with that and was so generous in donating to my Ko-fi thing. I don't know how to pronounce it. Thank you so much. It's really going to help towards the repairs. The Apple person said it was going to be between £460 and £900, so it really didn't narrow it down at all, but it should be okay. It is Tuesday. I only sent it off yesterday, so I don't think I'm going to hear back for a few more days. They did say a week, so we'll see. So I thought a vlog would be great because I'll be able to film the clips. I won't have to edit it all together until I get my MacBook back. So yay, I do have my very old MacBook, but it's just, it only really works for like live stuff. Trying to edit on that, trying to do anything on that, it's just so slow and so laggy. It only has like a very limited amount of memory, so it's just, it's a no-go. It's just a shame that my MacBook broke. It was only a year and a half old and it just kept shutting down constantly. It would shut down like 20 to 30 times a day. It made editing things so stressful because it would just shut down in the middle of editing something or making something, and I would probably lose a couple of minutes work, and it just, oh my gosh, like the stress, my stress and anxiety at the end of February was just so high. It started doing it really randomly at the end of last year, but I don't know why. I don't know why I just started doing that, but I do kind of have a theory of who might be behind it all. Who's been messing up everything? It's been Gagatha all along. Who's been pulling every evil string? It's been Gagatha all along. She's insidious, ha ha, so perfidious that you haven't even noticed, and the pity is pity. It's too late to fix anything now that everything has gone wrong. Thanks to Gagatha, naughty Gagatha. It's been Gagatha all along. And I killed Gavin's MacBook too. So hopefully I get my MacBook back soon. Anyway, that is that little random update that nobody cares about. Yes, Edge Chronicles. So the only books that I have for this Edge Chronicles series are these ones. Well, these are like the first 3 sagas in that series. So far there are 13 books in the series and I have 9 of them. So the Edge Chronicles series, if you don't know what it's about, I kind of have a really fuzzy idea of what it's about myself. I only ever read the Twig saga, but I haven't read them in like 20 years, so that's why I really wanted to reread them. But it is set on like in this place called The Edge, and it's a vast place. There's loads of different stories going on within it. There's loads of different magical creatures, different stories, and that is literally all I can tell you. I kind of like forgotten everything apart from what happens in Beyond the Deep Woods, but I don't want to talk about that one because that isn't going to be part of what I'm reading in this vlog. It is quite a hefty task and I'm going to go in chronological order, so I will be starting with the Quint saga, which is what I'll be reading in this vlog, and then I'll go into the Twig saga, which is the saga that I read as a child and mainly why I'm doing this Edge Chronicles sort of unofficial little read along. And I'll be reading the Rook saga, again 3 books. The ones that I don't have, there is the Nate saga, but that's only consisting of 1 book, and then finally the Cade saga, or maybe Jade saga. I don't know which pronunciation of that name to use, but that is going to be the last section of it because that is all that's out of the Edge Chronicles so far. Not only do I want to read all of the books in this series, I also want to read the short stories too. I do have like the World Book Day. I mean, again, perfect for World Book Week, but World Book Day, there are 2 Edge Chronicles World Book Day books. This one came out in 2001 and is part of the Quint saga, so I will be reading it in this vlog. And then there is also the Storm Pilot. One thing that's really great about these re-releases of the Edge Chronicles series is that these short stories that I have here were bound up in this The Lost Box Wars book. I'm trying not to get confused myself, but they are actually included in the re-releases of the Edge Chronicles. So Cloud Wolf is actually the first few chapters of The Curse of the Gloamgloser, which is going to be the first book I read in this vlog. And then the second book is what I'll be reading after that, so The Winter Nights. And then the Storm Pilot is actually at the end of this book, the third book in the saga, which is Clash of the Sky Galleons. So it included the short stories in the re-releases, which I'm actually really happy about. I didn't know that before I got this off eBay, so I didn't actually really need to get this, but it was really cheap. It's only like £2. But that means all of those short stories and the entire Quint saga is here, so I'm just ready to dive straight into it. And then I will be able to progress with the series in different vlogs. I'm hoping to do maybe one saga a month. I feel like that is quite doable. That means you can like expect one of these vlogs each month for the next 5 months. Oh, 4 months, sorry, if I'm including March. But I'm just really, really excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. World Book Week is going to be amazing this year. So yeah, this is the first one I will be reading, The Curse of the Gloamgloser. And it says on the back here, which might be a good introduction to the Edge Chronicles series. Welcome to a world like no other. Welcome to the Edge. Built high atop a floating rock, the great city of Sanctifrax is bound to the ground below by a chain. Its inhabitants living with their heads literally in the clouds. But the city hides a dangerous secret. Deep inside the great rock, something horrible is lurking. Quint, the son of a legendary sky pirate captain, may now be the only one who can save the Edge from the curse of the Gloamgloser. Oh gosh, I never ever got this far in the series, I don't think. I do have my very old copy of it still. Like, this was the original. Like, honestly, I'm just bringing out all these books. These were the original books, and these were, like, this was my well-read childhood favourite. But these were the original books, the Twig Saga, and then The Curse of the Gloamgloser, the first in the Quint Saga. But back when these came out, I don't think it was, like, divided into sagas or anything like that, so it's a bit fuzzy. Yeah, this was the original Curse of the Gloamgloser. I'm excited to give it a read, so I will shut up because this might be a long vlog. I might just give reviews on each of the books. I don't think I'm going to be updating in between, so we'll just see how it goes. We'll have a really chill vlog. Hope you enjoy. I did some Snuggly support sprints last night. I could really do with some right now, to be honest. I need to read, but I'm struggling today. Right, let's get to reading. Look at how dark I've made this coffee. I obviously haven't put in enough milk, but I think that still looks absolutely gorgeous. I do make the absolute best coffees. So book 1 is done. I have finished The Curse of the Gloamgloser. This is a bit of a misleading book because The Curse of the Gloamgloser doesn't really happen until the end of the book. So I was waiting for, well, this is over 400 pages long. This is 438 pages long, and I was waiting for that to happen, and it didn't happen until like the last 40 pages. I will do a little bit of a spoiler warning because I think I can't really talk about the Edge Chronicles books, especially since I'm reading 2 sequels in this vlog as well, without spoilers. To begin with, I was feeling like this would have been a 3-star book for most of it, and then we got into the last act, and that's when it really picked up, and there were some like really exciting things that happened, and then my mind was changed. I was like, you know what, this is a low 4-star book. I'm kind of a little bit gutted because I was expecting for this to be 5 stars out of the gate, because as I mentioned, the Twig Saga is one of my favourite childhood books of all time, and I thought that the Quint Saga would be, I don't know, like it would have maybe lived up to it, I guess. To be fair, my memory of the Twig Saga is very fuzzy, so I don't really know what I was expecting. There's a lot of intrigue, I'll give it that, a lot of world building, which works in its favour, I will say that, but I think as the first book, which, you know, the website recommends that you start with this book if you're going to get into the Edge Chronicles. It wasn't the most captivating book that I feel like you could start off with. When I reread Beyond the Deep Woods, I'm going to make my own decision whether I think you should start with Beyond the Deep Woods, because if I wasn't doing these vlogs, I might not have continued. Not because I didn't like this. I did really like this. As I said, it's a low 4-star. It's just that it's so hard to explain, so I'll start from the beginning. This one, it does follow Quint, and he is the son of a sky pirate, and he ends up going to Sanctifrax, and his dad ends up kind of giving Quint away to somebody who is really powerful in Sanctifrax. He's called like the Most High Academe. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's the Most High Academe. and his name is Linnaeus. So Quint's dad ends up giving him to the Linnaeus is all I'm going to call him, and that means that Quint is going to be his sort of apprentice. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it, because we had Quint, who is so used to being in the sky with his father, that being in this like new city, it was just like a lot for him to take in, and it felt like a lot for us to take in as well, because we are introduced to this world in this book. We have so many things going on in Sanctifrax, and we do meet lots of other characters. We do meet Maris, and she is the daughter of Linnaeus, and Linnaeus has been neglecting her. He's been doing something that we don't really know what it is for a lot of this book. We don't know what is going on there, but he does have some strange requests for Quint. He does ask Quint to take him into the Stonecombe. Something's going on, we don't know what it is, and I felt like the intrigue on that was like so super high. I was like, what is it? What's down there? Like, why is he neglecting his daughter over this thing that's in the Stonecombe? And kept me going for the entire 439 pages. It was drawn out a bit too long for me. I will say as well, because the first 5 chapters are from that short story, so the short story has just been included in this, just tacked on at the front. It does flow into it, don't get me wrong, it does flow into it, but you can sort of tell that the first 5 chapters, they're working towards a bit of a word count, and it didn't have quite the depth as the rest of this book goes. I will say it's not like the best written book of all time or anything, but it is really captivating, and it is very imaginative. I love like the viaduct steps and the Great Library and all of the things that we're introduced to in this book. But the main plot of this, which is, I mean, we've got the name on the book there, The Curse of the Glomgloser. As I mentioned before, it doesn't happen until like the very end of the book. So during this whole entire thing, we're like, well, what's going on? And I will say that even though like we go into the Stonecombe and we don't really know what's down there, I wasn't too sure whether it would be the Glomgloser and what the Glomgloser actually was. So we do have this interesting story that Linnaeus tells about like kind of creating the Glomgloser, which was actually very interesting. It was very Frankenstein-esque, and it was also really creepy as well. The entire kind of sections within the Stonecombe were quite creepy, so I really enjoyed those bits. And there was a death as well, actually, that was quite surprising. It doesn't shy away from, I guess, no, it's not too violent or anything like that, but it can be a little bit. It's not really too gory either. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like a middle grade that is dark. It's a very dark middle grade, I'll give it that. But character-wise, I do like Quint. He is very charismatic and he's very determined as well. And we also have Maris, and sometimes she would get on my nerves a bit. Maris does give Quint a bit of a hard time, and I can kind of see why. Maris does think that Quint has come into her father's life and sort of replaced her a little bit, so I do see why she was rather resistant to Quint. There was something that I found a little bit unacceptable, and that was when Quint told her that he lost his mum and siblings in a fire. There is a little scene later on and she knows what happened to his family, and she kind of taunts him about the fire thing, because he's obviously scared of fire, and she taunts him, and I'm just like, that's a little bit below the belt. So I mean, she does apologise, or she does change by the end of this book. She does start to accept Quint a bit better, so I did like her progression in this book. I thought it was very well done, and I could see her motivations. I can see why she was a bit frosty to begin with, but it was that taunting that just wound me up the wrong way. But all in all, I thought this was a pretty decent start. I just wish it didn't take so long to get to the point. It really does. It goes around the world before it gets to the actual, you know, the aim of the book. And usually I wouldn't mind that, but it did feel rather slow going for quite a lot of the book. And I just think this being a sort of introduction into the Edge Chronicles, I don't think I would start with this book. I know it's recommended that you should, because chronologically it's set before the Twig Saga, but I just remember Beyond the Deep Woods being so, like, I don't know, entertaining and thrilling. And this one wasn't. I mean, it was entertaining to an extent, but I wasn't really thrilled by it. I mean, yeah, the scenes in the Stonecombe were very thrilling, but again, it just took too long to get there, and some of it was dragged out quite a lot. But I can't really fault it too much. I would still give it, again, a low 4-star rating. It does have such a great ending though. It does have a great ending, very exciting, and it's kind of what saved it from that 3-star for me. There is action, there is betrayal, there is kind of a, what do you call it, like a slip of the hand or something? I don't know. I don't know what it's called. There's like a phrase for it. But there was some like twists and turns by the end of it. I won't specifically spoil what happens there, but I will say it just made it very interesting. It made confrontations interesting. And I'm just excited to start the next book, actually. So I will be reading The Winter Nights next. And I am actually really excited to read this one. I think it will be better than The Curse of the Glomgloser. I just think that one just had a bit of a pacing problem, I guess. That might be really unfair of me, but I just think this one might be a bit more fast-paced for my liking, and I mean, we all have our preferences, don't we, for our books. And then again, this is the middle of a saga, a 3-book saga, so maybe it has a pacing problem as well. I don't know, maybe it's just building towards the 3rd book. But I'm going to find out in this book. I don't know what it's about. It's talking about the floating city of Sanctifrax, and it's straining to break free of its tether, and ancient feuds threaten to tear its people apart. It sounds really interesting and intriguing. So I'm excited. Also, Chris Riddell's illustrations were incredible in the Curse of the Gloamcloser, by the way. He just, oh my god, I love his illustration style. It just looks so real, but like so whimsical at the same time, and the illustrations of like the Gloamcloser and stuff were just terrifying. There are glisters in the Stonecomb, and some of the illustrations of those are rather terrifying as well. So yeah, again, sorry, I'm gonna shut up now and get to reading The Winter Nights. 2 down, 1 to go. I have finished The Winter Nights, and unfortunately I don't think the series is going in the right direction. So what I've noticed from the series so far is it starts off pretty well, and then there is just this huge part in the middle where my interest just starts to really fade, and then it picks back up at the end again. And I felt this one way more than I did with the first one, The Curse of the Gloamcloser. And unfortunately this one wasn't as interesting all the way through either. So in this one we do, and again, spoilers for this one too, but we follow the death of Linnaeus, who was Quint's mentor in the first one, as well as Maris's father, which pretty much separates Quint and Maris from pretty much the start of this book, which I found really interesting. I kind of liked the direction of that story to begin with, and then it just got like really boring after a while. So Quint ends up going to a night academy, and Maris ends up going to some distant relations who live in like the Undercity, so she's away from Sanctifrax, and they end up like locking her in. It becomes this kind of almost like a Cinderella-esque kind of storyline for Maris. She's locked in, she's not allowed out, and she ends up communicating with Quint through letters, and that does open up a really good storyline towards the end with some developments which I will talk about in a second as well. But yeah, the main chunk of this book is Quint at the Night Academy, and honestly, like, I thought that was good to begin with, but I got so bored with it by like 150, 200 pages in, and this is almost 400 pages long, so these are rather big books. I still love this world that we're in. I love the attention to detail with a lot of the world building. Like, I love the building up of the Knights Academy and the different things that they're learning about the sky, as well as just little things here and there that Quint does, but it just got so boring after a while. The best way I would describe this is Game of Thrones, John at the Wall, but doing chores kind of thing. Like, it felt very filler for a lot of this, but Quint does meet some like pretty good characters there. I liked Finn, who was like almost his like new best friend, but then we also meet Vilnix, and Vilnix, he is a bully for the sake of being a bully. His motivations didn't really line up with his actions, so he ends up like almost killing an animal that he was supposed to look after, so Quint ends up like kind of looking after it, and the people in charge end up finding out about this, and Vilnix, you know, gets a little bit of a slap on the wrist for it. But then Vilnix starts going on this whole thing against Quint because of that, but he ends up trying to kill him a bit later on, as well as Maris, and it just, there wasn't anything that Quint did to him or what Maris did to him that would cost them their lives. It didn't make sense to me, so the logic kind of fell apart a little bit in this one. To be fair, at the end, Vilnix does get kicked out of the Knights Academy, and then that is when I would think, oh, you know, maybe he would kill Quint and Maris, or at least attempt to. But he does it because Quint like kind of let slip that, you know, he almost killed the animal he was supposed to look after. Like, that just doesn't, I just didn't get that. I didn't get the lining up of that motivation. I hated Vilnix. I guess that's the point, because, you know, he is the bully. A lot of villainous characters in books, there is some kind of appeal to them, at least for me anyway, if they're like charismatic or anything. But Vilnix, he just didn't really have any kind of characteristic that was even remotely redeemable. He was just a bully and not very nice, and that somehow made him into an attempted murderer. But we don't even get the Gloamcloser in this one, so all of the build-up and the excitement of the first book, it isn't part of this one. Instead, in this one, there was like this impending great storm, which was rather exciting for a lot of this, because, you know, there were some moments in this where I got a little bit tense about it, but I just felt like that paled in comparison to the whole Gloamcloser storyline in the first book. And considering we didn't even get a chance to see the Gloamcloser in this one, I was just a little bit let down by that. Especially since I did feel like a lot of this, I just didn't really care too much about what was going on. And Quint himself almost felt a bit like a side character. Nothing really that interesting happened to him, apart from, the attempt on his life. He's a good person, he's a good character, but not the most interesting character right now. He was way more interesting in the first one, especially since we had that storyline of him being separated from his father, but and him trying to get used to that. But in this, it was just, he was in a new place, he was making new friends and things, but I just didn't feel like there was anything really that much to root for with Quint in this one. And then with Maris, I really wanted her to escape, the place that she'd ended up in. It was a little bit disheartening that she was barely in this one. She had such a character growth in the first one, and we didn't really get to see her sort of processing of her father's death. I just felt like there was a lot that was glossed over in this. It was only like fractionally smaller than the first book, but I still, like, even though there was like so much that was written, like, it's very wordy, I'll give it that, it's very wordy, but like it focuses all of that on the wrong things, I think, in this book. So there was like just a bit too much focus on the academy and not enough on the characters, I think, is where I went wrong with this book. I'm still giving it 3 stars, which is still a really good rating. It's just my least favourite so far, a little bit of a letdown from the previous book. But also, this one does not shy away from some like violence and even a little bit of gore. So there's one part in it, I can't remember what they're called, but there's these little wasp things, and they are actually inside this man, and they kill him from the inside, and then they start coming out of him, and that was really like, that was gross, but I just thought, wow, like, yeah, technically middle grade, but even then, like, Quint, I think, is like 14 or maybe 15 now, so it is aging up. But it's like, wow, that was like really dark. So I actually I love that. I love that so much. It was gross. Even towards the end as well, there was like a bit of a battle and people lose their lives. There's blood, like blood is described on the floor, on the ground, on the snow. And it was just like a little bit violent. And I kind of like that. But again, it's just too little too late. It just all started to happen towards the end. And I just wanted it to be a lot more balanced throughout. I didn't just want it to happen at the end or even have that interesting start with, Quint and Maris going off in different directions following the death of Linnaeus. And then I got so bored. Like, I just had a hard time paying attention to this one. All I wanted to do after every chapter was to scroll through my phone, which I usually do anyway. Doesn't matter the kind of book, I do that anyway. But like the need to do it was stronger with this one. And then I just didn't really want to jump back into it. So, I'm still holding out hope for the 3rd book, so I can take this one off my list now. But the 3rd book, Clash of the Sky Galleons, I said this about the Winter Nights. I finally have my laptop back and I've been editing this vlog up to now. I said in the last update, oh, I feel like the Winter Nights is going to be so good, but it just had the same kind of pace and problems as the first book. So with this one being like the closing out of this trilogy, I think this one might be better. It might be more consistent. Again, this one does end very interestingly, and it's going to be exciting to see where it goes. But I'm trying to keep my expectations low-ish. When it says Clash of the Sky Guardians, it looks like there might be some kind of battle, things have been leading up to this. I don't know if we're going to say the Gloamcloser in this. I don't know if the Gloamcloser is in the Twig Saga. I can't remember anymore. It'll be interesting to see if it makes a return in this, or if this just carries on from the storyline in that. I found that this series is rather political, like there's a bit of political intrigue, there's a lot of backstabbing and coercion. Coercion? Is it what? Coercion? I don't know how to say that word. Coercion and like power dynamics and power balances and all of that, which I do find really interesting as well. Again, I just feel like I'm bored for most of it, so I'm hoping things come to a head in this one. It rounds out the trilogy well. I don't want to say more exciting because I do still feel like the first 2 had exciting moments. I just hope this one carries it throughout. I don't mind the slow parts, just balance it balance it a bit, but like don't just save it all for the end, if you know what I mean. I do have a Patreon live show later, so I'm gonna read this, do my Patreon live show, have my coffee, and just make the most of ending this vlog. I actually can't wait to finish out this this saga. I do think it's going to end well. That is my prediction. I think it's going to end well, and I'm still going to be really excited for the rest of the Edge Chronicles. So far so good. Book 3 of the Quint Saga down now. I have finished the Clash of the Sky Galleons. I have finished Clash of the Sky Galleons. So that means I have finished the Quinn saga for the first time ever. I'm so happy that I managed to finish it. I'm extremely happy. I did think this was a little bit of a step up from The Winter Nights. I thought this wasn't too bad of a book, actually. I do still have some problems, though. So I guess one of the main reasons why I couldn't feel immersed in Quinn's world, and it didn't really become apparent until this one, is that there's just too much time spent away from Quint. So for a lot of it, we actually do follow different characters and different parts of the Edge. So Quint pretty much ends up feeling more like a side character than a main character. So yeah, my main problem with the Quint saga is that Quint was a good character, but he wasn't the most interesting to follow. And it did spend too much time just away from Quint. Anyway, I should probably tell you what the last book is about in the Quint saga. But in this one, Quint's father does kind of take him away, I guess, on an adventure, but he's seeking revenge because the person who killed Quint's mother and siblings, he is still out there and he has some clues leading up to where this person is. I guess since this is a spoiler vlog, I enjoyed the pursuit of revenge a lot, but oh my god, Quint's dad makes the worst decisions. I could see things coming a mile off because honestly, this book, in fact, this series so far is pretty much middle grade's answer to Westeros. There is so much death, there's so much violence, there's so many secondary character deaths. I couldn't really feel too invested in the characters that died because, well, apart from, again, spoilers, maybe apart from Quint's dad, but I saw that coming because his pursuit for revenge made him so, his decisions were so poor that it was inevitable. It was inevitable. I saw that coming. And it was rather an anticlimactic moment as well. I enjoyed the moment, don't get me wrong, I still enjoyed the moment, but it was still rather anticlimactic. Have I skipped loads of stuff? Yeah, there's just so much death and destruction in this, and it does end up with this pretty intense battle. Turbot, who was the person who originally killed so many people, not just Quint's family, turns out to be a man in a mask, so the real Turbot Smeal actually died years before. So this was like a big wild goose chase, really, which I found really interesting. I thought that was a really interesting story to pursue. It meant that we got to see different places of the Edge. We got to go to the deep woods, which I really enjoyed. I loved those scenes there, but I just couldn't get on board with the characters that much. I just wasn't really the biggest fan of them. Quint, again, as I said, he just felt more like a side character than anything else. Maris was better, especially since in the Winter Nights, she was very rarely in the Winter Nights. But in this one, she has a much more important role, which is great. Still not like the best kind of role because she's still more like a sidekick than an actual main character. But it was still better than how she was portrayed in The Winter Nights. And then other people I just don't really care to mention that much because half of them died. But I'm just confused because this is the end of the Quint saga. But there's so many loose ends, so I felt like there was more that was supposed to happen. It felt so incomplete. Surely stuff has to still happen, and it probably does still in the Edge Chronicles. I will be reading the rest of the Edge Chronicles, but things like the Gloamcloser in the first book, like that storyline was never really wrapped up. And then what about Vilnix in the second book? He was pretty much a horrible, nasty villain in that book, but we didn't see or get any kind of resolution there either. And then we do get a more well-rounded confrontation with a villain in this book, but I just felt like it needed to do more. Like, there should have been more, and it should have been more connected to the first two. I have since read that they kind of intended each book to be its own little thing, but there's just so many loose ends and so many things that they don't kind of round off that I'm just felt a little bit deflated. I thought there would be more in the Quint saga, and there just wasn't, so that leaves me a little disappointed. I guess that's me being a bit too dramatic and a bit too negative. I will say I still absolutely love this world. I love the world building in this, I will give it that. There's just like so many little details to this world that I really enjoyed. So, for instance, when they go to this quarry, and it's an abandoned quarry, but there's this story that goes along with it, and the story is mentioned. It was something about how rock was mined, and it went to the Academy of Wind or something, but the rock ended up attracting the glisters, and then it turned into this bloodbath. And I just found that such an interesting story. It was like things in the world was more than it appeared, which I enjoyed, but I just didn't think this kept focus on what was the more important story. I guess the whole Quint saga had the same problem. It kept diverging from the path and looked at really cool things, but never sort of really focusing on the important things. So I would have just loved more from the main storyline and not spend so much time away from it. That is my problem, especially since this is 430 pages long. That is a big chunk of a book. And the illustrations are still really good, but they're not taking up too much of the book, if you know what I mean. Like, I don't know if maybe there was less illustrations as the Quince Saga went on, but it did feel like there was less. So it's not like it took up most of the pages, it was mostly words. I'm just feeling there should be more. There should be way more. So I don't really know what to think, really. I think I'm going to give this one 3 stars as well. I gave the first book 4 stars. I really enjoyed all of the stuff with the Gloamcloser and the Stormcomb and the mystery, and just kind of the rise and tension of that one. The Winter Nights had a lot of potential, but I think it just meandered a bit too much. And this one, it's a bit of a anticlimactic conclusion to a saga that feels unfinished, which I guess, yeah, you're probably shouting at me like, yes, it does still do things with the Gloamcloser and Vilnix in the future. That's fair enough. For this saga as a whole, and just on its own, it didn't do what I wanted it to do. So that's me done with the Quince Saga, and I'm actually really, really glad about that. I'm so excited to start the Twig Saga. Like, you have no idea. I am so excited to start it. I am quite scared to start the Twig Saga, just in case it doesn't live up to my, childhood memories of that saga. Especially since Beyond the Deep Woods, I remember it being such a huge favourite of mine, but I haven't read it in 20 years, so what if it disappoints me? I'm actually really scared. I'm scared that I'm going to lower my rating of it. I'm going to think less of it. I'm just scared, but so excited too. So I will be doing the Twig Saga next. So I hope you will be around for that as well. Thank you so much for tuning into my Edge Chronicles Quince Saga vlog. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it was a little bit niche, but I love me some Edge Chronicles. I do. I know I was a little bit negative towards the end, but I do love this series. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment. Let me know what your favourite book of the Quince Saga is, and if maybe you found the Quince Saga to get more wrapped up in later sagas. Maybe. That would be good to know. And I will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye.